As a young boy, I had a map on my wall before I was even a surf photographer of the world. I always dreamed of traveling, and I had these little pictures of islands and places, and they were just fantasy pipe dreams at the time. But it's amazing to think that then and now I've actually got to see a lot of those dream places I wanted to go to. Photography, like a lot of the arts, it's a passion. You know, for me, it wasn't really that I came into this wanting to make a living out of it. I just loved capturing photographs of my friends surfing. That's how it started. And I have a background in music and art. I think all of those things kind of culminated and joined together to kind of be the passion of creativity that I wanted in photography. I've added journalism to that, being able to be creative with words. So yeah, it was more just that I loved what I do.
Alan.
Oh, where? Oh, that's not Alan. Steve!
Mr. Alan van Gysen, lovely to meet you, and thanks
So nice
for
to be here.
taking time out to have a chat with us. We very kindly in his beautiful home here in Kommetjie, and I think it goes without saying you're one of the well, I wouldn't say longest standing, but you've been in the business for nearly almost 2 decades, 15 years more even, according to your website.
Yeah.
In the industry, and yeah, I just want to showcase what you're doing now and your initiatives. And
So I was actually born up in a small little place up in Zululand called Ingobuma.
okay,
My dad was doing his housemanship. You know, back in the day when you would qualify as any kind of professional, you'd have to go do 2 years somewhere service. So
yes,
so he qualified as a doctor and went up there, and I was born there for the first 2 years. Don't remember much, unfortunately, but there's certainly that connect there with the East Coast. And then parents moved on to Cape Town. All their family are from here, so that was just like a little interim for them. Definitely Cape Town based, and yeah, I've known Cape Town my whole life. It's and after, as you said, I've been doing it for just over 20 years, 22 years now, and in all my travels, there's yet to be a place I've seen that comes close to Cape Town. I mean, home is definitely where your heart is, but there's something about Cape Town and just the opportunities and just the diversity of what's on offer, you know, especially as an outdoors person. You know, there we've got the mountains across the sea, we've got the ocean. Every weekend you can go do some activity, and you're still going to lack the time to finish it all. So, and as a young boy, Dad would bring me surfing when I was very young over to Kommetjie. He'd park his car in the shade at Goofballs, which we call that dirt road next to Long Beach. And I'd surf, and from then I was like, you know, immediately in love with this place, and I kind of had it as my dream and goal, and I'd pray often that I wanted to get to Kommetjie. And yeah, my wife's from a Kommetjie, so she didn't want to leave. Her parents her family rather, should I say, is many generation here in Kommetjie.
Yeah.
And yeah, very stoked to be here. And then our kids now, 3 kids, 13, 10, and 7, growing up here. It's like, this is the life I wished I had when I was a kid.
yeah,
But stoked to have had it in my later years.
amazing. I mean, how much time do you get to spend here? Because it seems your schedule, like you're traveling a lot, right? And a lot up the African coastline.
Yeah. So I mean, I had I kind of just found a sweet spot just before COVID where I was doing about 2 weeks away for work and then 6 weeks at home, which was fantastic. And then I'd had that time to edit and, you know, write stories and flesh out new ideas or get the other stuff distributed. And that was a good sweet spot, because then I was actually home more than a 9-to-5 office dad would be. So I was like stoked. And then COVID hit and work became very tight. I mean, for one, there was no more travel for me. And the other big thing that I do a lot of is the events-based stuff. So trail running events, music events, surfing events, and that all went. So then it was just literally the creative writing and whatever photographs I had in my library to work with. So I was very grateful for Janet Hurd and the team at Daily Maverick. I pitched them some ideas during COVID, and they gave me a little foot in the door there, and it was great to have that bit of work and a little bit of overseas mag work still, the few magazines that still exist. And then, as COVID last year kind of started to change slightly, all that work that was kind of pending in the wings, it suddenly started to come forward. And I think one of the biggest assets or additions to the work that I'm doing, both in my personal capacity, but then also with Now Media, who I'm partnered up with my long-term friend, Will Bendix, suddenly film and media and actually the docu-style stuff became something that everyone's looking for. So we actually sold a lot of all the old stills equipment that I had in Canon and invested heavily in the film. And that was a great investment. It was hard because it was the first real hard lockdown. I just had sold everything just at the right time. bought all the new equipment and had this huge kind of debt, so to speak, and thinking, sure, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
And but I had, I really did feel that the Lord had guided me to that point, and it was about just having the patience. There's meaning in that waiting, and then suddenly that work started to come. And then last year, very busy. Unfortunately, it's kind of the opposite of the imbalance of COVID. Then I got too busy, and as you said, I was away a lot. And even now, it seems to be trying to fit everything in it's a juggling act, I suppose. But family does come first, so very much will always make sure I'm home for important birthdays and family functions and events, and then try and do the work around that. One of the biggest blessings for me now in my position, having been in the industry for so long, is that I can actually reach out and connect with friends and colleagues, and actually rather get work to others, which I find is a really rewarding part of my work now. So if I can't make something, or there's too many things on, it's so nice to be able to share that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So it must have been a little bit of a nerve-wracking time, that period for you, where you just had invested a lot. And as you say, it's like, I think all of us went through very similar times where, we're impacted by COVID to the degree that you really start to worry, and you have to rely on, as you say, your patience. But you did that, and like I've noticed of late, a lot of your work is taking you up the west coast of Africa. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about some of the projects you've been doing up there.
Sure. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily like planned that way, that I was just focusing on the west coast of Africa. I think the difficulty with the east coast of Africa is you run into a lot of the dangerous countries, Somalia, even like, the northern parts of Kenya and Eritrea and all those countries. It's also very lacking swell, So over the last 5 years, I'd say definitely that the west coast of Africa is becoming more and more opened up, both for surfing globally, but also culturally. Like African surf culture is suddenly at the point at which it's really starting to grow, and people are excited, and they take an interest, and it's like incredible how, in my opinion, the Lord is working in our lives here, because at the same time you get a guy like Michael February, who just decided during the last year of his tour, man, these trips to Africa, this means a lot to me, and I feel like I can do a lot more as a free surfer for Africa and surfing and all that. So he was keen to go. We grew up here in Kommetjie together, and we started to do these trips. Our first trip to Ghana was really kind of what really clicked, I think, for him and us. And I've done a number of West Coast African countries over the last 20 years, but more so recently, I was like, wow, these countries all get swell during our winters. The swell just marches on there and gets super clean. Surf culture's emerging, and it's an exciting time to look at what Africa has and share that. And also, we did this great Vans Checkerboard Day event in Bourgeois, Ghana. Recently. And just to see how stoked the communities there are, and how inclusive it is, women surfers and men surfers, and they have a lot of people coming from across countries. So, for example, guys from Ivory Coast will come across in Ghana, and then you got guys, from all different countries within that West African belt, all kind of coming together and sharing this incredible thing of surfing. So it really is an exciting time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's just such a great energy and vibe around West African surfing at the moment. There's a lot, through the Afro Surf, the Mami Wata guys are doing a lot to promote that, and Salema's involvement there. But you and Mikey February go together like, I don't know, peanut butter and jam. You complement each other. You always seem to capture some of his best moments. What's it like actually working with Mikey? Because, I mean, he's an understated, stylish dude. When you're on tour with him, or you're shooting with him, what's it like working with him?
Yeah, it's very similar to, I think, what people see on the outside. He is who he says he is. He's a man of few words. So even when I travel, we have these great moments of just kind of hanging out together. And I wouldn't say it's always silence, but I think what works so well with any two people that are in a relationship is you don't have to always say the things you need to say. My wife, she finishes things that I'm doing, and vice versa. And it's such a great thing about these different love languages, about how you just will serve without being asked or told. And Mikey, his thing is, he knows he's got to serve. He knows I've got his back when organizing the things, and if there's an issue or there's stuff's needed to be done, and that's where I come in. And there's this great connect. And I always tell people this: it doesn't matter if you're the world's best surfer or the world's best photographer. If you don't work together in the water, your images aren't going to be what you would like them to be. So, water photography especially is a 50-50 relationship. So I just watch body language. It's fascinating. My son's now 6 years old, and he's just starting to surf all the lineups on his own, and I'm kind of there helping him. And one of my biggest things is coaching him about body language in the lineup.
Yeah.
You know, you can just see from when you go over the first set of a little wave, you can just see people's bodies twitching or moving. They know they're going to be looking for a wave. And Mikey he speaks with his body, like this incredible style that you mentioned.
Correct.
And, you know, I just can see what he's going to do. We've worked so long together now. So it's just, it is a really beautiful thing. And I think it's really critical when you travel in Africa. I've told people this very often, but you have to have the right character and personality also when you're traveling and you're meeting new people. You know, you've got a lot of guys that are very abrasive or very, you know, aggressive. It's not going to gel well if you're traveling in Africa. A guy like Mikey, obviously it's Mikey, and a lot of people now know who Mikey is.
Yes.
But when you go to a place that they don't know who he is, he's just such a cruisy guy, man of few words, just suss out the situation, never wants to enforce or put himself on anybody else. It's their space, their places. And, you know, it's, I think I just really enjoy working with him at this time, especially because he's now wanting to lift up others. It's not about him. You know, we do these projects with him and he's looking for artists who he can help promote or other surfers. It's quite exciting. This next month, we're going to be releasing the film we went most recently on to Ivory Coast. And there we've got these great artists, the local surfer. Yeah. The local surfer from the area is like, it's going to be his big moment to kind of be seen globally, you know, with Mikey. Cool. And it's important because I think I'm in that same space, like I mentioned, being able to mentor others and also to rather give others opportunities. I think maybe it's just character, but maybe it's also the life phase you're in. Mike and I are both in that similar space at the moment, just trying to lift up others and give them opportunities and just share what this incredible content has.
Yeah, and pay it forward. And you've got into this space now where you're able to do that, but you've also identified it. And I think from his perspective as well, that's kind of, you know, that's the beautiful thing about Mikey is that he's willing to, you know, travel to these destinations and just, as you say, just be cool and casual with everyone around him. And it's almost like his love of jazz and his style. It's almost what you've described to me makes me think of like that saying, it's the silence between the notes that sometimes makes the music, you know, and it's that synergy that you're discussing, of what you mentioned, between you and him, those silent moments where it's just about mutual respect and that relationship that you forged over many, many years, which is what makes watching Mikey surf so beautiful. Because what I'm trying to say is it's not just about Mikey surfing, it's about the way in which you capture him. And there's that symbiotic relationship that a lot of people don't necessarily see or, you know, have explained to them, which you've succinctly done. You know?
Yeah, and I think also going on to what we said about identifying, you know, where we are going to be the most useful in life. It is about taking that time to actually actively and intentionally think of, well, what are my gifts and talents in life, you know, and then identifying where those can be best used.
Yes.
And I like what you said about the relationship and the long-standing thing, because if I have to give anybody an advice in photography and film and in life in general, it's about investing in relationships from the beginning, because, and it's not because you're looking to get something out of it.
Yeah.
You invariably will, but you're investing in people because you care about them, and people are what's going to make life, you know. So when you invest in relationships, those things, and you do it because you really love and care for these people, that thing just, it's incredible how that becomes something so special over time and gets nurtured. And you know, Joe Soap you meet on the road could one day become the marketing manager of some company that you now wanting to pitch to them. You know, you never know.
You know, I'm saying it here, but you governed by principles. You're a spiritual man, and I think that translates into your work and the way in which you capture things. And it's cool to see and feel, because it's more than just about seeing. I think it's emotive when you watch your and you read your stories. I mean, there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. And I just think there's a lot of surfers. Maybe it's the COVID. Maybe it's the amount of pressure that they've been through of late because of COVID and not being able to tour or get out there and surf waves. But there's like a lot of surfers are moving and finding balance in their lives through, as you say, not just going somewhere and surfing, but it's connecting with the people, connecting with the local people, showing respect, and showing that spiritual side as well.
No, it's very true. I mean, I think people have realized through COVID, like you said, that, you know, life's not what we all were rushing towards maybe or thinking, and because we realized that we don't have control in our lives like we thought we did. And I think for me personally, I think a lot of people felt like they were their own gods, they controlled their fate, their lives, and maybe a lot of us realized or people realized that that's not actually the case. And there is this these higher powers, and in my own personal belief that God is there guiding this whole journey. And at the end of the day, we've got this short little window. No matter what you believe in, we know life is finite. And then it's what happens. What have you really given back, and what have you really done in your life that matters?
Yes.
That will live on. So. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's why family is really important, and these relationships. So relationships with with our our families, our spouses, even with ourselves, being really honest. And yeah, it has definitely become an exciting time for me. And I think COVID, it has been very challenging. I know for a lot of people, there's been a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
But I think on the whole, a lot of people have realized how life has become something they can. It seems they've figured things out a little bit more, and jobs that were like just grindy jobs that they actually didn't like, either just kind of had to be dissolved and moved away from, or people had to pivot and go to something else.
That's it.
And a lot of these new exciting jobs are actually what's really making people happy. So yeah, I mean, like my brother-in-law doesn't have to work in an office in Cape Town and drive every day through. Now he can work from home and govern his own time. There's lots of that kind of stuff that's exciting.
Yeah, there's a positive spin-off to this, and we have to cling to that. We see the amount of surfers in California over the COVID period, like 2 million new surfers. Thanks. We can't get wetsuits here in South Africa. But
totally.
I mean, there's good energy around that, because people are recognizing that the ocean has something to give.
Yes.
And you're having to tap into a natural energy. And with that comes a spiritual side. And there's this recalibration happening, which is putting positive energy out into the world, which is great.
I drove out the West Coast for work the other morning early, and I messaged my wife. I said, "You can't believe how many people are out. Muizenberg's packed, Fishhoek's packed. There are cars all along Silvermine, road, the mountains, the forests, and you're right. People are looking to just be back outdoors, and I think people, whether they consciously or subconsciously know it, they're connecting back to creation, and this incredible world we live in, and that's also this consciousness with regards to environment and climate. People are. It's like a no joke thing anymore. And you kind of need to realize that. And once again, COVID was also this time where you just saw this wildlife coming back out, and so many little bits of the puzzle starting to trying to click in.
Yeah, the earth just started healing itself, as it was always going to do if man just took the foot off the proverbial gas.
Giving us that little glimpse into what if we just took it a bit easier on the planets. And
amazing. And in terms of like conservation and environmentalism, what have you any involvement with any initiatives?
Yeah, sure. Like during the course of COVID, and even prior to that, talking with Mikey, there's definitely been this social connection to social upliftment and well-being. So that's been something we've always been quite passionate on. But I think as surfers, we connect to nature, like I said. So, I mean, if you don't connect with nature, I think you're missing the essence of what surfing really is. And in the last 5 years, I'd say that Will Benix, my partner, and I, we more and more involved in environmental conservation, stories and media and just efforts. Last year I was in Cameroon, and we were working on a piece for Plastic Oceans International. And I went there just to do a piece on plastic. It was no surfing, nothing else related. It was just to go document what's happening in the cities and the rivers. And it was pretty overwhelming. So we've just had a feature film short piece that we released through Plastic Oceans, and it's a story about their blue communities that they are trying to establish globally, which is basically that communities taking back their own spaces and actually trying to kind of remedy that and fix it. I mean, you look at Josh Redman and the Litterboom project in Durban. These communities are out there doing more and more good work. We are currently working on a big project. It's taken us just over a year already. It'll probably be another 6 months, but a project called Cutting the Line, and it's basically an ocean plastic issue story, but as seen through the eyes of ocean conservation Namibia, Nordia Drea and his wife Katja, and the incredible work they're doing with the seals. It's not just seals, it's whales, dolphins, birds, whatever animals are in stress, but seals are these incredible creatures that are like this litmus test for how bad is the plastic in the sea. Well, we get entangled and we'll come to the beach and we'll show you. So every day they're rescuing countless creatures that are suffering because of the plastic problem. And they are the ones showing us how bad it actually is. I mean, dolphins and whales can't come out the water. Most of them die and we don't even know. And so this story is it's a really an incredible story about a single family wanting to make this huge difference, and how through social media and their fan base on YouTube, they've become this global phenomenon. And reaching more people and getting more funding than any traditional organization probably would. And that's with thanks to, that's the good part of social media.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's their story, and it's going to be out probably about August sometime, but we're excited with that. And I think, yeah, I'm really excited about that work. I love my surfing work, I always will, but there's something so much more to be said and told about Africa and the work that it can be done in conservation and wildlife.
Dude, I mean, this man's I can't even keep up with this diary. I think that it's overwhelming, but at the same time, you're getting the balance right. You giving us surf content. You're still writing great stories, but then you're also doing your bit for the planet, which is great. I'm going to put all the links down below so that you can watch the movies that Alan is busy with, the projects that you're busy. All the links will be down below, so please go and give them a watch. Support Alan van Gysen. How do you pronounce your surname? Van Gysen.
Van Gysen, exactly right.
Okay.
There we go, you nailed it.
Alan van Gysen. Well, I'm a Skitter, but everyone calls me Shooter, and sometimes worse. So I'm happy with Shooter.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, no, a lot of Americans and Australians, they think it's Van Gysen, so then they spell it G-U-Y like a guy.
Yes.
But my surname originally was actually changed when my grandparents came down from Holland. It was too confusing, so then they changed it to G-Y-S-E-N, but it still gets
I'm glad we cleared that up at the end of the interview. Sorry, man.
No, that's cool. I mean, like everyone calls me AVG. It's just kind of become that the nickname that people use in magazines. But I think it's important also, people's real names and why we get given these names. Names are important as well. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time. I think it is. I feel at this point slightly overwhelmed still after COVID and all the work that could be done. And it's just about refining that balance. For me, it's important that I could, go for at least one surf a week. I'm not, I'm not going to be surfing every single day. I just don't have that time. But I love running the mountain here, so I do a lot of trail running. I love swimming out here at the Kommetjie at the bay. We've got one of the most incredible natural swimming pools right here.
Yeah, no,
in the inside of the Kommetjie. And it's also a great time with my kids. Like I really want to do a lot more with them. At the end of last year, we also I was privileged enough to film Bianca Baitendach for the Super Sport documentary they're making about the Olympic her whole life. And I got to take my eldest daughter, Kiala, with us. And it was amazing. She got to surf with Bianca and she got to hang out, see what I do work-wise. And I think I would love to be able to do more of that, take my children on these little these journeys. Because a lot of people ask, oh, did you take your family with you when you travel in Africa? And I was like, yeah, we'd love to. But it's like mostly when it comes to work things, I have to get the work done and focus. But B, it's hard traveling in some of these remote places in Africa. And my wife's just incredible. She holds the fort at home and the glue that binds everything together and keeps it going. I think we haven't really talked about that, but if I'm successful from my work and the business work, it's only because I have my partner and my wife at home keeping the family together and doing all her bits and pieces. And there's lots of ups and downs, and you need somebody there who can support you in all your work. And she really, without her, I wouldn't be doing what I do.
That's awesome. That's really heartfelt and touching. And it's been great to catch up with you, Alan. I really appreciate your time. I hope that this little interview provides some exposure into your life, and it's you've created a beautiful sanctuary here, and you've got a great family, and it's been awesome to chat to you.
Shot, man. Much appreciate it.
I think in Africa this is the final frontier that we're in at the moment of surf travel. Guys have traveled around the world a lot and discovered a lot of different places in South America and Asia, and even all the cold water spots they've discovered. And Africa really is the place where you can go to a country and no one surfed before, like now in Equatorial Guinea. You never know what you're going to discover when you go into Africa. It's just raw, it's fresh, and I'm just excited to see what else we have to offer. And incredible ways are being discovered every year in Africa, so it's definitely the final frontier. And it's great to be a South African living in Africa because it's kind of on my doorstep.